Edumacation, or another opportunity for Kevin to irritate people by being super libertarian. I was really actually pretty excited because Alex was all like, I'm all for social services, but education, I don't know. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to be the one kind of opposite voice, I think, this time. So education is really weird. My own experiences, I was in private school through first grade. I was homeschooled up until 8th grade. Then I went to public school. Then I went to a public college. I'm now back in college. I dropped out of my public college. I'm now back in college. And I've taught at various seminars and I've given conferences and stuff. So I feel like I have a cursory exposure to a whole bunch of different types of education. And I think that a lot of the stuff that I use in my day-to-day is largely self-taught. Here's what I think, and I'm coming at this from the perspective of someone who's not currently crippled by student debt. I don't think it's true to say that if you go to a private school and pay and take out a loan for $120,000, that you are getting significantly better education than, say, your parents would if they paid like $5,000. Obviously, these are fake numbers, but I think there's a big problem with educational inflation, and I think it's when we're talking about whether or not we should be paying for education on a societal level. I think there are two ways to approach it. One is to look at what we think that education ought to be, and I think that's a really hard thing to actually even talk about, because inevitably when you determine educational policy, you're determining how we educate people for an economy that's 20 years out. And the further along that we go in history, the more of a challenge that actually is to determine. I never learned how to use a tablet computer. My kid brother is using tablets all the time. For me, computer education was not a thing until high school, and then it was a very optional thing. And so the idea that we necessarily have to make decisions based on huge uncertainties in knowledge becomes really challenging. So I think when we're talking about educational policy, we have to recognize that we don't know what the needs for the workforce are going to be at the time when we have to make the decision. And there's a very significant gap from the point where we're saying we need to teach people this and the point where we're going, okay, well, if we were able to say, education was a one-year experience, it'd be a lot easier. You could say, okay, we need people, we're aching for software developers, so everyone's just going to learn software for a year. And then as soon as that changes, oh, actually, we need agricultural engineers. That's going to be the focus of education. So, and then a year later, we've got those. Instead, we're dealing with people that are, 20-some years outdated by the time they enter the workforce, which is really, really hard. And there are problems with the current system of education. And I think when we're talking about policy, it's very hard, we talked about basic income last week, and it's very hard to look at what educational policy should be in that sort of environment. And I have no idea what education looks like in that sort of situation. So I think we kind of have to ignore that. We kind of have to set it aside until it becomes more of the reality. But if we look at current education, I think there's a big problem with educational inflation in that we go in, and even at the time when I was looking at college, there were people that came into my high school and said, you need to go to college and you need to take out loans to do it, or you're not gonna have a decent job. You're not gonna have a happy life. And I think there's a question if we were able to say to people that, let's say at the end of 8th grade, you go to these kids and you say, if you don't do anything more, if you just stop going to school right now, you will be able to own a home and support a one-kid family. Like if that was the economic system that we lived in, then we would say, do you want to go and do more school stuff? I think fewer people would. I think it's very difficult for us to say that, we need to subsidize, everyone has a right to go to college, because I don't think everybody wants to go to college. And I think even if you were to ask people now, whether they want to avail themselves of the opportunity, it's an unfair question because, one, we have a compulsory school system. You know, until you get out of high school, it's illegal to not be doing school stuff. And if we've decided that that's a good, then fine. But it's compulsory, so we can't just say that, you know, if we're depriving people, because we don't know that if they were in a system of free choice, that that's something that they would choose to do, even with the benefit of hindsight. I think especially when we talk about college, now we're not so much talking about compulsory education, but we are talking about a society in which if you don't have a degree, you're in pretty serious trouble. I think one of the reasons that there's so many more people going to college is not, you know, part of it is that, yes, we're giving more people opportunities where they'd have been discriminated against or for whatever reason wouldn't have had the chance to go. But there's also just a situation where we're saying you're not going to be, you're going to be on the street if you don't. And so I think there are a lot of people that go to college and avail themselves of these opportunities and take out these loans and this debt without complete awareness of what that debt's going to mean. There's kind of this false economy. When you have the ability to borrow, when we have these federal subsidies, and we're asking minors to make this decision. We approach 17-year-olds and we say, hey, you need to sign on this dotted line that we're going to give you some money to go do this thing that you have to do, because otherwise you're going to die and live on the street. And we're saying, we're asking you to sign away, you know, this future debt and that sort of thing. And I think it's a big challenge. Did I have a main point? I don't know. Education is really, really hard. But I think the biggest thing when we talk about subsidizing education now, and this is the thing that kind of scared me with the State of the Union address that Obama gave, where he was talking about subsidizing associate degrees, which is 2 years of college. That my fear is that it's not, I don't necessarily think that it's the case that the reason college is so expensive now is because the educational experience is so much better than it used to be. And whatever the factors are that have kind of caused it to inflate are certainly up for debate. But the problem is that when we cut a check, let's say, here's the reality of the experience, everybody has to have a degree, to function in society, and we're going to write you a check for it, it makes it much easier for the educational system to continue to inflate. If we had a situation where basically we said, you have to give us, if we went and we said, you have to give us $1 million for 1 year of college, eventually fewer people would get degrees. Businesses would have to hire people who didn't have degrees because there'd be a much larger portion of the workforce that didn't have degrees. And so I feel we need to make sure that when we're looking at the current system, we need to figure out, is there economic value to everybody spending more time getting more degrees, or is this the sort of thing that's kind of a self-reinforcing problem? And that's a question I don't have an answer to, but maybe you do. And so I hope you will let us know in the comments. Bye.